It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? If you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. Choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses. So don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
In a world where insanity reigns supreme and safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, it's comforting to know an ancient, fat, long-haired, bearded reprobate has your mind in mind. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, and despite every attempt by the SHR Media Network to revoke his shameless contract, we return to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon.
I have come here to chew bubble gum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubble.
It's showtime. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, where I am still broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, always spelled out with a K, but no longer from downtown Sacramento in the original SHR Media studios. Instead, my voice emanates from the South Sacramento area, but only for a short time. I think I'm going to have tonight's show, maybe one more next week, one more after that, and then I'm done. I'm done for probably another month or two until I rebuild the studio in a free state. So be forewarned, for right now, for tonight, what you're about to hear for the next 2 hours consists of my opinion and my opinion only. And I should remind you of this as well. The Saloon is serving stiff drinks, facts, history, logic, rationality, proportion, context, tradition, intent, and common sense. Remember, we don't water our drinks just like we don't water our conversation. Politics, religion, crime, culture, race, sex, economics, science, law. We talk about it all here at the Saloon, where the speech is free, but the booze is not. In 2022, right here, right now. By the way, today is March the 3rd, year of our Lord 2022. I am done with bipartisanship or compromise, and leftists have all declared we're on an open war footing against you. And finally, I need to tell you this. It's very important. I love my country. I abjure its leftist leaders. And anybody who won't put America and our lawful citizens first, obey the U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights, uphold the rule of law, and embrace due process. Democrats, leftists, and the American media maggots say that makes me a white supremacist, terrorist, extremist. You know what? If loving my country makes me an extremist, then so be it. Well, I'm in the Saloon, and Lonnie Poindexter is in the Saloon.
Hey, hey.
And tonight we're going to be speaking to a very good guest of ours, who is Mike Fitzpatrick, because so much of what will be occurring falls into his realm right now. At this point, however, as per normal, I think I need to do this.
The bloviating Zeppelins, HeyJackass.com Chicago Death Toll Update. Courtesy of Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
And you can find this, I found it, on HeyJackass.com, illustrating Chicago values. In Chicago, the great land of Lori Lightfoot, the current lovely mayor at this point in time, for final February tally versus 2021. Now, Shot and killed 41, that's up 21%. Shot and killed 128, that's down 15%. Lori, what are you doing? And total shot 169, that's down 9%. Total homicides 43, that's up 8% from 2021. Now, the week in progress, February 27th to March 5th, shot and killed 5, shot and wounded 31, total shot 36, and total homicides 5. Oh, I got a great stat coming for you. And year to date, shot and killed 88, shot and wounded 327. That was a great engine for Chevrolet, by the way. Total shot 415, total homicides 95. Now, according to the 2022 Chicago shot clock, it just got a little lower. A person is shot every 3 minutes and 33 seconds in Chicago, and a person is murdered every 15 minutes and 24 seconds in the great city of Chicago. By the way, as opposed to last week, a person is shot 2 minutes more frequently this week than just last week. What the hell?
The Bloviating Zeppelins HeyJackass.com Chicago Death Toll Update. Courtesy of Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
We're going to go into a couple of pieces of news before I get to Mike Fitzpatrick. But first, what the hell? Let's see. Mike, you there, by the way?
I am here. Can you hear me?
I can indeed. Now, Mike, known as Mike Fitzpatrick, otherwise known as Mike with the last name of Fitzpatrick, can you tell us, Mike Fitzpatrick, Mike, where can you be found? What are you and where can you be found, and what are you in charge of, sir?
Well, let's see. I'm founder and CEO of NCX Group, and we're an information risk management firm, and we work with companies and organizations to find the holes before the bad guys find the holes in their security systems and within their IT systems. And so I'm responsible from everything from making sure the lights stay on to making sure projects get done. So you can find us at www.ncxgroup.com, www.ncxgroup.com, or NCX Group on Twitter, NCX Group on Facebook, NCX Group on LinkedIn.
One thing that I should point out about Mike, I've wanted to, but I know what the answer would be. Mike deals with a lot of medium range and some smaller, and on the other hand, some really big name clients. And I have wanted to ask you who they are, but I'm not going to because I know you can't. But let me just assure the people that are listening that Mike Fitzpatrick has been in the biz for quite some time, and he isn't just a guy that you found on the corner of Walk and Don't Walk and doesn't know anything about what he's talking about. He has some serious chops in terms of cybersecurity, and let's just say his clients are big. Let's just say some of his clients are really big. One of the first things I discovered from Mike Fitzpatrick, however, the very first time I had you on, I should have known this, but I never really thought about it because, quite frankly, my personal cybersecurity sucketh large time, GI. But would we not be shocked, Mike Fitzpatrick, at how crap most cybersecurity and firewalls and the protection of most corporations or businesses really is? It's tragic. Would I be accurate in attempting to thrust it over into kind of the tragically inept category, sir?
I wouldn't necessarily go that far. I will say that companies and organizations are spending more time and spending more money on trying to get their arms around this. The problem is they didn't do it soon enough. And a lot of things, matter of fact, I was on the phone with a client today, and we were talking about when we started working together 15 years ago on a project and how just certain simple things like code and, exploited code and being used to exfiltrate data back then was maybe the most horrible thing you could deal with. Now it is 360-degree asymmetrical warfare. It is an interesting.
Looking for excitement? Chumba Casino is here. Play anytime, play anywhere. Play on the train, play at the store, play at home, play when you're bored. Play today for your chance to win and get daily bonuses when you log in. So what are you waiting for? Don't delay. Chumba Casino is free to play.
Experience social gameplay like never before. Go to Chumba Casino right now to play hundreds of games, including online slots, bingo, Slingo, and more. Live the Chumba life at ChumbaCasino.com.
VGW Group. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Deep that everything has taken, and if the playing field from a cybersecurity standpoint changes and becomes very offensive, there's no rules for this, and it's going to get really bad if it takes that track with everything in Russia, Ukraine, and all other interested parties.
Mike Fitzpatrick, would I be kind of correct in saying that originally when you first got into cybersecurity, perhaps the bulk of it was similar to, hey, somebody stole my damn client list? Where
a lot of it was that way, BZ. I mean, one of the first things we did when I started the firm in 2002, and this March I will have been in IT for 40 years. And so one of the things that we did in 2002 is we did what was called war driving at the time, and just in our local town, just to see what open Wi-Fi ports there were, what Wi-Fi networks were open.
So did you go driving around?
Yeah, just driving around. and so in I think I still have the video somewhere. That's funny. And so we videotaped the whole thing. And so one of the things that, we were able to find, in probably about 35 minutes, we were able to find about 260 open networks, no security whatsoever, one of which was the water district. Local water district, and we were able to actually get on their network and make our way to the SCADA systems. So that was interesting.
You didn't just go by, Johnny Nimrod's house. You went by businesses, and Lonnie.
Well, I mean, we're just driving down the street, and they're just pinging open left and right. I mean, I'll have to play you the video sometime because it's just ding, 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 ding going down the street. It's crazy.
Lonnie, this is
yes, and Lonnie was here for this.
Oh, was he in the car with you?
No, but he's seen the video.
Oh, okay. Lonnie, I'm going to be doing an impersonation of Mike Fitzpatrick in the car when he was going around driving through the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And that one's stupid, and that one's stupid, and that one is really stupid, and that one is stupid, and that one are stupid. They're all stupid. What was that? A summary? That was the executive summary.
And that is the executive summary. I think, and we called the water district to tell them that their stuff was open, and trying to be good people and good citizens, and they took affront to it.
Mm-hmm. Imagine that.
And but they got it cleaned up, and then I guess it was probably about, I want to say 6 months later, we get this call from this hacker, and he goes by the handle of Mr. Echo. Okay. And one of the interesting things that we learned, or I learned at that time, is that hackers each have their own ethical line.
Oh, okay.
And when somebody crosses their ethical line, they see it as a moral imperative to strike back. So this particular hacker decided to be a white hat this particular day. And so he contacted us, came out to the office. We talked to him. We vetted him. And we went by and checked ourselves. But his what he was telling us is that a local grocery store, which is, I think they're national, definitely all of California, starts with a V.
Oh, okay.
And their Wi-Fi was open in every grocery store, and you could skim credit cards and get to the customer loyalty database.
Lovely.
And so we went by, validated it, and sure enough, and I made a call to the CIO of the grocery store company, and it's amazing how much pushback you got at that time when you're just trying to help people. And it's just, it's the things that make you go, huh? Really is.
That's how, for example, you got SEAL Team 6, and that's, for example, how you got the explosion of Rodney King. Let me tell you two very brief stories. There was a dude who has passed away now, who is the father of all the SEAL teams, named Dick Marcinko. And Dick Marcinko was a badass. He learned at the hands of essentially the original SEAL in World War II through buds. And in the process of doing that, he had something called Red Cell. And Red Cell's job was to go and infiltrate naval bases, which they did successfully every damned time. Well, he shamed the crap out of the U.S. Navy, maybe something you shouldn't do, but they told him to do his job, so he did his job. That's eventually how you got SEAL Team 6, and that's eventually how naval administrators ended up putting him in federal prison for the air quotes, misappropriation of materiel, end of air quotes.
Wow.
Another story about LAPD Rampart. One of the reasons that you got the Rodney King riots was because the individual who had videoed the Rodney King vehicle stop decided that he was going to take said video, go to his local LAPD station, offer it over, and say, you guys might want to watch this because I think you have a problem. The response at that station was, you can get out of here. So if that were you as an individual and you were told essentially, and I don't know what transpired in terms of verbiage between the two, but essentially you were told to go to hell, would you not consider perhaps going to KTLA or whatever it is that they did down there? So people don't like to have their undergarments exposed, even though you may be attempting to do it for a really good reason, and perhaps they need to listen to you. And that's called shooting the messenger. Boom, dead.
Wow.
Lonnie, you don't have any experiences with somebody attempting to shoot you, do you? Because I do.
Are you kidding? I'm known as the black face of white supremacy. So.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That deserved the first one of the night. Yep. Forget about that.
So I think he's going to have a license plate made with that.
Yeah, if I could swing it in California.
And would it fit?
Yeah, would it fit?
You'd have to put it on your frame like my frame outside.
Uh-huh. Oh, boy.
Hey, Mike, you haven't been, told that as a whistleblower and people have attempted to shoot you or, de-res you out of somebody's system or tell you that you're full of crap? That's never happened to you.
No, but then again, I make sure all of my guys have weapons, that they know how to use weapons, they carry weapons, and because you never know with some of the projects that we go into, it used to be early on you were in some interesting parts of different cities, and you just didn't know what kind of things you might see at night. So all my guys are prepared.
Okay, that's good on every scale.
I can speak to incidences where he's caught heat. This is back when he was a part of the city planning for a community, and he would speak up when they were going down these rat holes of ridiculous spending that they wanted to do, and he caught heat for that. I won't name the city, but I remember the frustration, and it really speaks to, and it was prior to me getting involved with media and radio and television out of D.C. I remember those days, and Mike would, man, can you believe? And he would share with me. I said, you gotta be kidding. This is just common sense stuff. And you begin to learn and understand that there is another agenda. And then you go, like I go to D.C. and you see it on a grand scale there,
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
How they go about plying their trade. And it's really frustrating. It's frustrating. It's like you work, hard work, living and taking care of your kids and your family and your mortgage and going to church on Sunday and all the things to make you a model citizen. And then these yahoos, the money that comes out of your pocket off the top, right, just goes into a big barrel. I don't care what bucket they say it's in. It goes in and disappears. And you don't know where it ends up in terms of the buffoonery that they put forth.
I don't trust almost any aspect of government anymore. Mm-hmm. Because when people in D.C. or Sacramento or whatever your capital happens to be, in whatever state or town you inhabit, my guess is that the bulk of the funds, though they say it's been earmarked for X, goes into the damn general fund. Oh. And then out of that, they can do anything they wish with it.
Social Security, as a for instance.
And the other thing that I didn't know until I started getting into politics was D.C. speak.
Yeah.
Because a budget cut in D.C. speak from one fiscal year to the next, if you're in fiscal year 2021 and for fiscal year 2022 you didn't get an increase in your budget, that's called a cut.
Uh-huh.
Okay, now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, in your reality, that's called the same. It's called, let's say you have a budget of $35,000 for 2021. And let's say your budget for 2022 is $35,000. You don't call that a budget cut. You say, thank you, I still have my job. But D.C. considers that a budget cut. So here's what I'd like to do for the show. We got a couple of news stories that just came in. Hot off the wire, so to speak. And I'd like to go over those. I've got some happy stories to actually go over. Then I need to get into the meat of the matter tonight. So let me start with this first story, and then I'd like both of you to weigh in on that. This is very, very developing, but it bodes terribly. I was watching TV just before I started the show, and then Lonnie came in. And we had to turn the TV off because, if the TV's on, it drains my internet and everything stops. So that's one of the things that Mike, if you think I'm kidding, Lonnie, am I kidding?
No, he's not kidding. He's in Hooterville.
Mike, I literally have to go and turn off the TV. Then I have to go to the computer in my other room, turn that computer off, pull it off the internet, and then I have to make sure that the wifely wife is not on the internet so that the only thing on the internet is Lonnie and me and Spreaker right now. That's
it's almost like you're running internet with string and tin cans.
I told Frontier now, and I don't mind saying this because they suck, folks. People say, you shouldn't be naming names. Okay, well, I have the proof. Anytime that I want to get onto the internet and run an internet test, here, I have Frontier communications, and I use that second term loosely, communications. Frontier Communications around here in South Sacramento is like piano wire and chewing gum. That's the communications that they consider, really good here. So basically, folks, if you're in South Sacramento and you're not in a brand new home, because they got great crap in brand new homes, but if you're in a South Sacramento home and it's an older home, do not, important safety tip from me to you, do not use Frontier Communications. But anyway, before I turned the TV off, I looked at this story, and this just came in. Europe's largest nuclear power plant on fire after shelling. Now, can anyone tell me in what reality is that a good idea? We already saw what happened to Fukushima. We know what happened at Chernobyl. We know what occurred at TMI, and the nuclear plant that was here in Sacramento was the same kind of type of reactor, because I worked there as a security guard in the early 70s, very briefly. That was a Babcock and Wilcox design, same as TMI. Well, eventually they pulled the Sacramento nuclear reactor down. Not because of its nuclear aspect, but because they couldn't keep the damn transformer running. Oh, well. That's a story for another day.
That would be Rancho Mirage, right?
Yeah, Rancho Seco.
Rancho Seco?
Yep, Rancho Seco. 2 massive cooling towers that you can still see from Clay Station Road.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yes.
You can still see them on Clay Station Road as you go east from Highway 99. They're still up there. And they do have a nice fishing place over there. You can go fishing in this big pond that they have over there. Now, the fish that you catch will glow at night, but other than that, it's great fishing.
And have 2 heads.
Well, that's so they can eat more bait. Right. Lonnie, that's exactly why. A spokesman for Europe's largest nuclear plant says the facility is on fire after Russia attacked the power station in the southern Ukrainian city of Enerhodar. A government official tells the Associated Press elevated levels of radiation are being detected near the site of that nuclear power plant. It begins with a Z, and I'm not going to begin to even pronounce that, which provides about 25% of the country's power generation. It also happens to be the 3rd largest nuclear plant in all of Europe. So if somebody decides that they're going to hole the reactor of that, what people are intimating is that, you thought Chernobyl was bad. Well, depending upon the prevailing prairie winds, how does a good portion of Europe not being occupied for 100,000 years sound to you today? So that story just came out. Then there's another one. Now, that was Europe. This one is here. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, here it is. This is from the week. Just came out today. 5:10 p.m., as a matter of fact. The Senate today narrowly passed a GOP-led measure to end the national emergency declaration for the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, now doesn't that make sense to you? Because all of a sudden, State of the Union, day before yesterday, it was okay. You could take your mask off. They said it was okay. But the 48 to 47 vote came after several Democrat absences allowed Republicans to eke out the necessary simple majority. But here's the headline to the story. Biden pledges to veto Senate-passed bill ending COVID emergency declaration. Does this not, Lonnie and Mike, sound like, Justin Trudeau? Or, I don't know, Stalin? Or, Putin. Has one ever heard of a dictator or someone with the ego the size of Detroit ever voluntarily give up power control which yields money? I haven't. This is continued proof to me. Any thoughts on that, Lonnie? Because Biden says, hey, it's okay to come into the House with no masks, but I'm not going to cede my power. Nah.
Yeah, I think it speaks to the greater objective or agenda, which speaks toward moving us all toward the Great Reset. But here's the thing: this could bite him in the keister because I was out shopping today, and I was watching the folks that, with no mask on. Now, this is because of what the president has said. I was riding an Uber. They're still wearing masks and what have you, but people are sick and tired of the mask. And this is regardless of political affiliation. People are sick and tired.
Yeah.
So maybe with this latest thing, if he plans on doing, it'll stir up enough heat. We've got thousands of truckers headed toward Washington, D.C. as we speak, and I think this will add fuel to the fire.
If we can even find the fuel. Oh, but that's,
there you go.
That's a story that we'll get to in time. Mike Fitzpatrick, down in Southern California where you are you still seeing a lot of people wearing masks in your areas?
You're seeing less and less. It's interesting because the governor here has started to repeal the mask mandates and all of this, and we're seeing a reduction of it.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
But my friend, Melissa Melendez, my state senator, has been trying and has been pushing to end the state of emergency here in California for the better part of a year and a half.
Sure, with her and Kevin Kiley up here in Sacramento as well. Props to Kiley.
So SHR 5, which is the bill that will get a full hearing on the floor of the Senate for the first time ever here in California, to end Newsom's power reign. That is on March 15th. Newsom ends his mask mandates, I think, on March 12th.
Yeah,
it's like 3 days before the hearing.
Right, 11th or 12th.
Yeah. So for all of those that are listening, Melissa is going to be running for lieutenant governor of the state of California.
Nice.
I highly endorse her.
Me too.
She is a constitutional conservative.
Yep.
And she does the job as a representative the way that it's supposed to be done. Regardless of your party, she's there to represent you. She's fantastic.
And let me just mention, being the only single guy on the broadcast here this evening, I think she's hot, too.
I haven't seen her.
She's a good-looking woman.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, good-looking woman.
Well,
But she's married.
That deserves a...
She's married and a mom of 5, and her husband's a commander in the Navy, and I think he could take you, Lonnie.
Yeah, he's a badass.
Okay, well, there's nothing saying that, you can't look.
Yeah,
all right?
She is hot.
At the end of this article, the president's spokesman said if Congress were to pass this resolution, the statement continued, the president would veto it. So, there you go. If you want to know.
Well, it's interesting. I was also talking, I guess it was probably 2 days ago. I was talking to a business associate of mine in Australia. He's just outside of Melbourne. And all the masks are now gone in Australia.
Get out!
No more holding back. No more lockdowns. But the cases have skyrocketed. Imagine that. But no one's talking about it because they're all fixed on Ukraine. There's over 6,000 cases a day now in Australia. They've never been that high.
Could that be from those who have been poked?
Australia.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of that, but people get out and get back in the mix again, and you're out there in the social soup of humanity. There's going to be infection again. Mm-hmm. It doesn't just go away because you're not out.
There's another aspect of that. I wish I had Jack Alexander on right now who could explain this aspect. and it deals with an area involving people that you wouldn't think of. And I won't go over it for this show, but maybe someday. There's another additional factor that you wouldn't consider in terms of Australia and why this is spreading, why it spread before, and yet it blew back on everybody else in Australia as well. And if that's not confusing, I don't know what the hell is. So we'll take a break right now and be right back after this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, are you guys listening? This is Shannon from Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM on SHR Media. I know you've been wondering where we are and what's been going on. Well, folks, that's right. We're back. So please join us 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday on SHR Media, on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Spotify, and Facebook Live at 11 a.m. on Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM at Facebook. You don't want to miss a minute. We've got lots of guests, lots of segments, and lots of interesting things. And let's face it, there's nowhere for you to go, so you might as well tune in. Again, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. We're back live on the air on SHR Media, 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday, audio and Facebook Live, audio and video. Yes, we are going to do video. Facebook Live, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. Hope to see you soon.
Want to make an immediate difference in the life of a critically ill child? You have the ability to do that right now. Make a donation to Dream Makers for Life, the organization that restores dreams to seriously ill children and their families. You can sponsor a dream pack for a child, which contains a clear PVC backpack, a dry erase board adventure coloring book, a journal, and dry erase markers to inspire a critically ill child to envision a future adventure and hope. Want to become a dream maker for life yourself? Go to dreamforlife.org. That's dreamforlife.org. Help a child. Help a family. There is always hope.
Unleashed Jeremy Hansen, the most explosive pro-American podcast on the planet. Pro-MAGA, pro-Trump, pro-conservative. Come join the resistance. Fight for what really matters in America. 5 p.m. Central on UJHLive.com, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Pandora, or MAGAbook.com. Come join the resistance and fight for America. Unleashed Jeremy Hansen.
Do you value yourself, your family, your friends? Want to know more about how to survive, thrive, and stay alive in these dynamic times? Listen to Around the Campfire with Kate, Thursday nights and Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Central, only on PSN TV. That's Around the Campfire with Kate. News that nobody in the MSM wants to report. Remember, train hard, train smart to survive, thrive, and stay alive.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Well, we're back. I'm back. Lonnie's back. My baby used to have back. Not so much anymore. You can listen to the show live and jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room by going to shrmedia.com, shrmedia.com. Now, once there, if you're on your phone or tablet, you go down to the very bottom, you hit View Web Version. That'll take you to the real, actual web version. And then you click at the top to listen live, chat, and then you'll be in the chat room. You can still follow me for a while on Twitter at BZEP, at BZEP, and I'm on Getter, Gettr, at BZeppelin. You got to spell out the whole name. And, of course, if you're listening to the show tonight on Spreaker, audio only, which is the only way you can hear it right now, share me on Spreaker. You can find me on, Spotify, iHeart, Apple Podcasts, Podcast Addict, Google Podcasts, Castbox, and something called Deezer, which I have never yet really listened to my show on. So we're back. I'm here with Mike Fitzpatrick, and I'm here with Lonnie Poindexter.
Hey.
And we're talking about a couple of stories that just went out. What I'd like to do very quickly is go through some happy stories, because I know in today, we'll get to all the depressing crap. Don't worry. All right? Fear not. But I want to do some happy stuff, because as I say every show, there's still a lot of good stuff that's going out there. So let's go there first for right now.
It's time for happy stories and good times.
This is from ABC News. It says, in the headline, economic concerns hurt Biden's approval, keep Democrats in peril ahead of midterms, according to a poll. I don't know. I'd say that's happy news. Here's another story from abcnews.go.com, and I'll read you the headline, but then you'll see immediately what isn't in the headline. Now, both Lonnie and Mike, I'm sure you've heard of the phrase burying the lead.
Yes.
Okay, well, this was quite effectively buried, because when I read you the headline and then you discover the thrust of the story, the deal is on this from ABC News. You got to go 4 paragraphs down to discover what they're really talking about. And that's it. The story is, the headline is, economic concerns hurt Biden's approval, keep Democrats in peril ahead of the midterms, says a poll. Well,
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply.
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs down. It finally gets to it. It says, the result, a career low 37% of Americans approve of Biden's job approval ratings. It hasn't gotten any better these days. Here's another happy story. Shell is deciding that it's going to pull out of Russia, and what that ends up doing is that dumps the entire Gazprom deal. Gazprom is essentially the number one petroleum maker in all of Russia. So I got to say that's a happy story as well. Here's another one. It's like, well, no. I'm just going to have to play this for you and hope that it can
build a wall high enough to keep out a vaccine. The vaccine can stop the spread of these diseases. Because you can't build a wall high enough to keep out a vaccine. The vaccine can stop the spread of these diseases.
Okay.
What the hell did he just say?
That's a really good question. That was in the State of the Union, and so that's just illustrative of the quality of information that you heard. Then there's this one, too, which I can't pass up.
Putin may circle Kyiv with tanks, but he'll never gain the hearts and souls of the Iranian people. Putin may circle Kyiv with tanks, but he'll never gain the hearts and souls of the Iranian people.
Okay. All right. Great cuts from the State of the Union speech. Here's something else, and this pissed a lot of people off because I found this in Wyoming Public Radio. Now, when you think Wyoming, you would customarily think Great Plains, Big Sky, lots of perhaps buffalo, not so many. But you wouldn't necessarily think that unless you're in Helena, that it's a hotbed of leftism. Well, it's kind of a hotbed of less leftism in the big areas. You know, big is relative. Here's from Wyoming Public Media. Senate cuts UW's gender studies program. I could go to the comments. They're down below, but leftists went insane over this. The Wyoming Senate voted 16-14 to eliminate the University of Wyoming gender studies program with a budget amendment. Well, if you want to see leftist heads explode, there you go. Then there was this. Lonnie, did you watch or catch a part of the State of the Union from Biden?
Bro, I didn't watch it at all because it makes me want to throw something through my TV.
Okay.
And I still have payments to make on it.
Okay. And
I watched 10 minutes.
Okay.
My wife wanted to watch a little bit, see what he said about Ukraine, and I go, I can't take this theater anymore. I got to go.
Okay. And then somebody in the audience said 13 during that, in reference to the 13 dead Americans.
No reference to them whatsoever.
No. So I think it was Bobert or Green, I'm not sure which, made mention of that. Here's what no one else saw or made mention of. You guys know Senator Joe Manchin, right? Okay. So Senator Joe is a Democrat. With whom was he sitting during the State of the Union?
That I did pick up on.
The Republicans.
Yes.
To me, that's broadcasting a message in the clear. It couldn't be more clear than that, Lonnie.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because something I'd always thought about and would like to hear from you and Mike on is, from a strategic point of view, he stays Democrat, but he rolls with Republicans. He could probably just as easily say, just throw in the towel and says, I'll become a Republican. But then that opens up a seat, you know what I'm saying, that the Democrats could fill when his term is up. If he stays where he is, he's that proverbial monkey wrench thrown into the gears.
Well, he's a guy that does not comport anymore with the Democrat Party. Two guys come to mind when I think of, nobody really wants to think of this, but when you think of moderate Democrats, I think of like Joe Lieberman comes to mind, and Zell Miller comes to mind when I think of guys like that. Well, Manchin is a moderate West Virginia Democrat. He opted to sit on the side of the House chamber, which is traditionally reserved for Republicans rather than other members of his party. And if you go back in history very recently, he was the fly in the Democrat ointment in terms of not pushing the Voting Act that essentially just takes over all your local elections and federalizes most every election and makes sure that Democrats can cheat in perpetuity. And then he was also, if I'm not mistaken, Lonnie, the fly in the ointment in the infrastructure bill as well. So I found just the observational aspect of Joe Manchin, because the first time I saw, he was leaning over to somebody, and I couldn't remember who it was. And then I thought, well, isn't that a Republican? What is a Republican doing kibitzing with Joe Manchin?
Yeah, I would say he probably needs to hire more bodyguards.
Yeah. Okay. That's the third one tonight. Very true. But
And what, his third shot?
That is clear to me. That is very clear. The other thing that I have is this great, what is this? This is about a 20-second cut that I'm sure the both of you have heard before, but maybe some of the other folks who are listening here. This is from Ron DeSantis in Florida as he goes up to the podium and is about to make a speech.
You do not have to wear those masks. I mean, please take them off. Honestly, it's not doing anything, and we got to stop with this COVID theater. So if you want to wear it, fine, but this is ridiculous.
All right, well, it's good to be at USF.
And so that was Ron DeSantis with a bunch of kids in the background, all of whom were wearing masks, likely told to wear masks by, I don't know, whatever colleges or high schools they represented in South Florida. And then he comes up and says, okay, you know, it's theater. It's kabuki theater of the absurd.
Yes.
And there are only a few people who would have the guts to say anything about that, and he was one of them. Then I noticed this just came out today. Two more stories that are good, that are positive for happy stories. Then we're going to have to get into the depressing crap because we still have to cover everything. From Ohio, legislature passes permitless concealed carry, and the bill is now going to Mike DeWine, the governor of Ohio. So permitless carry is about to be approved in Ohio. That has to be a good thing. And then another one. The trucker crypto crackdown in Canada is fueling a GOP backlash in the U.S. And at least one House GOP member has introduced a bill to prevent our government from doing the same damned thing, to which I can only say, that's wonderful. Mm-hmm. That's absolutely great. Any thoughts on either one of those things or all of those things, Mike or Lonnie?
As far as happy stories, I think one of my happiest stories in everything that's going on right now is how the people of Poland, Romania, Hungary, Germany are opening their homes and their doors and providing for all the people that are evacuating Ukraine. Yes. I'm so impressed with everything that I'm seeing online. I saw people at the Wailing Wall in Jerusalem with Ukrainian flags draped over them and praying. You're seeing it in world football. Gazprom, you mentioned Gazprom. They sponsor most of the world football teams, and all of them have cut their ties with Gazprom.
Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. And that's why I say again that
it's time for happy stories and good times.
So now it's time to kind of get into the meat of the matter. Because all of the...
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply.
This dovetails. I want to do a great reset show. Lonnie has said, hell yes. It's going to have to wait until after I get my new studio rebuilt, but I am going to do, eventually, a great reset show. But before we begin, there's this that is coming directly out of the Oval Office that everybody needs to hear, as a matter of fact.
Program to bring you a message from the President of the United States. My fellow Jamaicans, our nation is in crisis. The Decepticon variant Hobo 19 is still killing fat people. Inflation is destroying our fire jars, and now that Ukraine is being sexually raped. That is why I've asked Congress to order a full-scale attack on Joe Rogan. Not Joe Rogan, the Russian guy, the guy with the shirt, Pootie Tang, man, bad dude. We got to come together, man. Get this guy. He's got our cranes. He's got all our cranes. We need him for the better build back. The build back better. The better build back better plan, man. You say it 3 times fast, pal. You say it. God, piece of shit guy over here. Anyway, let's start the show.
So let's start the show, shall we? And now let's go with an what?
Stop. You can't lay that out there. Just move on. Pootie Tang. I'm dying.
One of the funniest shows ever. I love Pootie Tang.
Call Pootie Tang.
Well, now let's as my my college. God, I had this big. I started taking law in college, and Elton Long was this big, huge, tall black professor, and you never wanted to make eye contact with him because if you did, he would make sure and call on you for whatever case. He'd ask you to review a case, and then he'd always say contrast and compare. Well, contrast and compare this.
And there was no way we were ever going to unite Ukraine. I mean, excuse me, Iraq, Afghanistan. No way that was going to happen. And there was no way we were ever going to unite Ukraine. I mean, excuse me, Iraq, Afghanistan. No way that was going to happen.
So that was the fake along with the real. Yeah. So what happened, folks, is that Russia invaded Ukraine on Tuesday, February the 22nd, and Russian President Vladimir Putin, who has been in office, by the way, since 2012, has been sending messages in the clear for quite some time that he would do precisely what he is doing now. And so I would just like to remind folks of this. Chechnya was reincorporated into Russia under President Clinton, 1999 to 2000. And that's where the start of the war bolstered the domestic popularity of Vladimir Putin, as the campaign was started just 1 month after he became Russian prime minister. So that conflict greatly contributed to the big changes in Russian politics and society. Now I'm going to highlight 4 events, and there is definite linkage here. First, Putin invaded Georgia in 2008 under President George Bush. Putin annexed Crimea in 2014 under Barack Hussein Obama. Putin did nothing under President Trump for 4 years. Then Putin invades Ukraine under Joe Biden in 2022. So anything in common? Yes. Lonnie, Mike, anything, your thoughts?
I'm so glad you mentioned this, because I've been commenting in my social media this very thing, and just basically to sum up that there's no way, use a nice word. I had something else I was going to say.
You can.
I know. I can speak freely here.
Yes, you can.
But there was no way in hell that, I'll just put it like that he would do what he's doing now had you had a president who was all there mentally and had the huevos, spiritual and otherwise, to stand up to a guy. Because in dealing with strong men, if you looking in the Bible, how do you deal with it? Only way you can deal with it was from strength. So
they're bullies.
Exactly.
You should have learned that in 3rd grade or 2nd grade.
That's when my dad taught me.
Thank you.
Yes. I'm non-confrontational by nature, and my dad saw that early about me. He says, son, bullies, they will harass you until you confront them, and they might have a crew around them. And he said, the one talking the most trash, that's the one you punch in the nose.
First.
Yep.
Hardest.
Yes. He says, you might lose.
I don't know. My dad said he'll punch a little lower.
Yeah,
and then when they drop, hit them in the nose.
Yeah. Yeah. That's probably 2 rings on that one.
Okay.
But it because this is playground stuff, just as you stated.
It's playground 101.
Yeah. So he's taking advantage of the mindset who sits in the Oval Office, and I understand why. Well, I know common sense people see this, but there's enough Americans out there that are completely clueless as to what's going on. You don't have to be a politician or a political science major or a professor, or be as gifted as my dear brother here sitting in the saloon, or my brother who is called into the show, to understand this. Yet this is what we deal with. And here's the downside of this, and there's multiple downsides. People are dying because of it.
When the second hour begins in 4 minutes, I want to go back to Mike Fitzpatrick and talk very specifically about cybersecurity and what we're facing now. But the thing that you mentioned that is so particularly galling to me is, and maybe to you, I would guess, and Mike, and anybody else who's listening that has just a whit of common sense under their pate, would be, why is it we're the only ones that can see how this stuff works? Mm-hmm. And the other thing, the thing, Lonnie, that you reminded me of is I have most deaf come to the conclusion that leftists don't care who perishes under their ideology as long as their ideology is held sacrosanct. It must be number one, and how we get there is immaterial. What price has to be paid in terms of budget or toil or pain, they couldn't give a shit less about. I am absolutely guaranteed of that.
Now let me go. Ding.
Okay, here you go. Try it.
Okay.
Okay, I'm handing, for the first time ever, I'm handing Lonnie
He passed me the bell.
So, see? See, it's up to him. And people think that this was a sound effect. No, it's a little bell that I have right here, and it goes on
legitimate antique bell.
And it goes on the desk, and I pick it up anytime I want to ring it.
Yep.
But I honestly, truly believe that anyone or anything who gets in the way of their philosophy is fodder. And normal people couldn't see that the lack of reaction to all of these things was building up to the coal in 1993, which led to 9/11, to all of these things that were not blockades to Putin, the proverbial red lines in Syria that people continued to cross. And the only people recently, and they've been quantified as nuts, but they kept a clamp on shit, was Reagan and Trump.
Yep.
Because in a way, they kind of thought Reagan was nuts, and they kind of thought Trump was nuts, and they couldn't quite predict what Reagan was going to do. I don't think very many people could predict what Trump was going to do, except when his foreign policy addressed, and I've got it's the quintessential 4-minute cut of Trump foreign policy.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
After the break, because I love this cut coming up. Oh, my God. But when we get back, I got about a minute. When I get back, I'm going to play that a little bit later. And I'm going to talk to Mike Fitzpatrick about some specific cybersecurity concerns. And Lonnie, I'm going to show you this right now. Here is my pre-typed up pages. These are questions.
He's so organized.
These are questions for Mike Fitzpatrick. I won't get past page 1 of all of this stuff.
We only get through about 2 or 3.
Yeah.
You know that, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. I'm not even sure I'll get past page 1 because I've got all these other stories that just came in to talk about, but I'm ready to go, Mike Fitzpatrick.
The tree huggers are going, he's killing trees.
And I do, and I'm proud of it. Cause,
sound the bell for the round. Let's go.
Okay. So I'll sound the bell for this. We're going to go to a break. And when we come back, it's Mike Fitzpatrick on the go. It's Lonnie Poindexter on the go. I'm BZ. You're in the saloon. And guess what?
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
It is he that is me, bringing perspective from across the sea. Join me, Jack Alexander, 4 days a week for the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast, as I take a unique outsider's look at the news and issues affecting life and liberty here in the USA. I'll show you what the mainstream media refuses to. Politics, border security, defense, healthcare, travel. Nothing is off limits. Catch the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast each Monday to Thursday on Facebook, YouTube, and everywhere good podcasts can be found. Also, check out the website www.jackalexanderexperiment.com.
Come listen to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific, for the best in late-night Conservatarian wireless talk radio at SHRmedia.com. Raised as a free-range child with dirt and freedom, BZ is broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California. Jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room at SHRmedia.com. Now, with 18% more umbrage and 20% more bulbosity than previous shows, and with delicious Liberty additives. Remember, BZ realizes that with great beard comes great responsibility. No chinchillas were harmed, embarrassed, or the focus of any sarcasm whatsoever in the making of this ad.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
After 6 years covering terror and corruption, the Unpleasant Blind Guy is making a change. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker and YouTube through SHR Media and on the Western Free Radio Network as I team up with Jeff Mitchell, host of the English Defense League radio show on blogtalkradio.com. Check show pages for air times. It's the Unpleasant Blind Guy.
On EBL Radio.
There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we're back. We are back. I am back. It's Lonnie Poindexter, one each. To my right over there, Lonnie, how are you, sir?
Just fine, my brother, just fine.
And we also have Mike Fitzpatrick in the saloon. Mike Fitzpatrick, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, BZ.
I was going to say Mike went out to get some vodka. Oh, here's the other thing.
No, just a little bourbon.
Oh, okay. Okay.
He's not screwing with any vodka.
All right.
Especially nowadays.
Okay. Hey, I'll be the first one to admit that for the longest time, I drank Russian potato water. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, there might be some out in the garage right now. Now, it's not the Russian potato water that people associate with real honest-to-God Russian potato water with the black eagle on the front that kind of looks like the graphic from the Nazis or from the Gestapo. It's not that potato. That potato water has, I understand, been taken off of shelves. Stolichnaya is kind of pseudo-fake kind of potato water. But in terms of potato water, by the way, that's also why I recommend that I have myself in contact with the BZ's KC-135 Kettle One refueling team, with whom I always consort at the end and conclusion of the show. But I also want to have everybody remember this as well.
Folks, this is BZ's final hour. Step up. Last call for alcohol.
So if you got it, smoke it. The smoking and...
I was just going to say, BZ, if we're drinking vodka, maybe Tito's vodka out of Austin, Texas.
I was thinking that very thing, Tito's.
I've never had that.
Yeah.
So is that, Mike Fitzpatrick, have you had that?
I have had that. It's handcrafted vodka out of Austin.
Tito's.
Fantastic stuff.
Tito's.
Okay.
All right. I thought it was a tequila. That's where it's got my interest.
Exactly.
Yeah. No. Tito's.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a vodka.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I will have to try some. I historically have consumed Kettle One for quite some time because, as I used to say, life is too short for cheap potato water. It really is. And I through discovery, I'll name names because what the hell. I don't care. I'm not making $1 billion off this show. No one, listens to me on a national level anyway. Smirnoff is just fucking gasoline. You may as well just start quaffing gasoline. And I used to think initially, because I'd have vodka Collins when I went out to restaurants and whatnot, and I didn't think about brands. I just, drank whatever they gave me in a drink, whatever they gave me in a drink. That's why I drank. So then I started drinking other potato waters. And I thought, son of a bitch, there really is a difference in this stuff. Because this other junk, and I went to a couple of others besides Smirnoff, it's gasoline. It really is. Then I started hitting Stoli, and then what's the other one that I used to drink for a while? Grey Goose, and then Kettle One. And I thought, my God, I have no taste. My senses are dulled over the years. I can't see, I can't hear for shit anymore. I lost my smell, my sense of smell, my sense of taste, except for my wife, is terrible, absolutely execrable. But this tongue, this clotted, fetid tongue right here, could actually discern the difference in vodka, which, frankly, shocked me. So, Tito's. Okay.
Out of Texas.
I'm going to have
and of course, Mike would know about that.
I'm going to have to go out and try some Tito's.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
Tito's, and then if you're looking for, I think, the best beer that's available is Shiner Bock out of Texas.
Yeah. I'll differ with him on that. Shiner Bock is
because I'm looking at Lonnie
He'll
right
certainly
now.
drink it when he's here.
Well, I can't get anything else because that's all he's got.
I'm looking at Lonnie, and as soon as Mike said that, I'm looking at Lonnie's.
I knew he was going.
Beady little eyes.
Here's
right
a Shiner
there.
Bock commercial coming up right now.
Man, that
Lonnie's.
is the best beer.
He's rolling in his eyes. Okay, quick.
Okay, wait. I got a story that came up.
Okay, good. Do it.
It's your fault. You started. Mike remembers where I used to live down in Southern California. I had a neighbor that lived across the street from me who married well. He married the co-founder of Mattel Toys, Australia.
Holy crap.
He married the co-founder's daughter. So he married well. So he didn't have to work, but he was a golf pro. In fact, that's how he met his wife, because he used to teach the co-founder of Mattel Toys, Australia. So he had the best garage in the neighborhood. He had the black and white.
Looking for excitement? Chumba Casino is here. Play anytime, play anywhere. Play on the train, play at the store, play at home, play when you're bored. Play today for your chance to win and get daily bonuses when you log in. So what are you waiting for? Don't delay. Chumba Casino is free to play.
Experience social gameplay like never before. Go to Chumba Casino right now to play hundreds of games, including online slots, bingo, Slingo, and more. Live the Chumba life at ChumbaCasino.com. VGW Group. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Checkered flag floor for NASCAR.
Oh, cool.
He had signed NASCAR stuff on the walls. He had several fridges in the garage. So all the guys in the neighborhood, we all live vicariously through him. And so we go hang out and watch NASCAR, drink beer.
That was the best garage I've ever seen in my life.
Wasn't it?
Was that like the superior man cave of man caves?
It was the epitome of the superior man cave.
Spectacular.
When I say the floors were tiled and, you could eat off of them. And he kept it immaculate. So here's the deal. This guy who married well, who could drink whatever he wanted. The first time I drank, 100-year-old tequila was at his place because I couldn't afford it. Otherwise, was at his place. He had all the vodkas, the different names. That's how I got familiar with Kettle One and all the different ones. Because his favorite drink was vodka. But guess whose vodka he drank?
I don't know.
It came in a gallon jug or a fifth jug that was plastic, pop-off.
Oh, I remember Pop-Off.
Speaking of gasoline.
Oh, God, yes.
It didn't even come in a glass bottle. It's what he drank. And he didn't want anything else.
So, I was going to say, like, maybe some of the finest Tibetan vodka possible.
Yeah.
Pop off.
Cheap stuff. And if you brought him anything else, he'd say thank you, and he'd put it, and it'd be for Gus. But he drank Pop off.
Oh, my God.
Okay. You remember him, Mike?
I remember. That was a spectacular garage. Yeah, that was a fantastic place.
Okay, quick story. I don't really tell stories, and the stories I tell are crap. But a quick story. My parents, when Dad was in the Air Force and he would get through at the end of the day, Mom and Dad would have a glass of wine, very specifically. And the wine they had was Thunderbird. And they thought they was rocking and rolling till the break of dawn. Until later, as an adult, I realized that, well, Thunderbird is kind of like cat piss. And then only then did I realize that back then, although they did not think it, they did not tell us, they did not portray it, we were fairly poor. Not living in a fabulous neighborhood, although it was beautiful at the time, but Thunderbird?
Oh, my goodness.
There we go.
I've got stories about, that's what you drink when you're young and a teenager and sneaking, is all you could afford.
Oh, yeah.
And you and the winos, that's what they drink.
Okay.
This Thunderbird.
I think it made me think of the term short dog. I know what you know what that is, and I know what it is, and I bet Mike knows what it is. But for those people who have not been in some of the finer crappy establishments around the United Snakes of America, a short dog is a little teeny bottle that you can stick in, like a New York City paper bag and carry it around with you and take
your pocket.
Or your pocket. Yes, thank you very much. That's true. And just carry your short dog around and have a hit every once and a while. But my parents, as I recall, did not have that kind of bottle. And I have not done my adequate research, but I think the Thunderbird from which they quaffed was in an actual bottle.
Yes. Yeah.
So Thunderbird must have actually made wine, cheap as it was, in actual bottles. Now, I'm not saying it necessarily had a cork, although, you know what? That was the 50s and 60s, so yeah, I bet it did have a cork. I bet it was not a screw top. Might have been a screw top. Might have been the first screw tops, for all I know. I really don't know. Okay, how do we get off of this topic?
I took you down that road.
I know.
I don't know, but I think it did go screw top in the 70s because they were trying to pace themselves with Boone's Farm, as I recall.
And why shouldn't they? Lonnie's over here on my right, pointing his finger.
He nailed it. That's exactly when they went to that, because Boone's Farm was considered a step up.
It's a premium drink.
Oh, Jesus. And what was the other one? Red Diamond.
Red Diamond?
Yeah, it tastes so better. Diamond Red, it depends on what folks would call it. They used to call it Mad Dog. No, that was the other one.
Oh, man. Yeah, Mogan David 2020. And people would call it Mad Dog.
Yep.
God, I'd forgotten about that, too.
Short
God,
dog.
that's absolutely fabulous. And now it's Cheap Wine Talk with BZ, Lonnie, and Mike Fitzpatrick. You came here for cybersecurity? Nah, screw it. We're here for Cheap Wine Talk.
Oh, boy.
Okay, all right. We're going to get back into cybersecurity and the semi-serious stuff. And again, oh, my God, I'm on, let's see, of 30 or 40 tabs, I'm on tab 4 right now. So something tells me I'm not going to get to all the stuff that I wanted to go. So I asked...
You may have to go an extra hour, BZ.
I made these various comparisons at the conclusion of the first hour with regard to Putin invading Georgia in 2008 under Bush, and then Putin in annexing Crimea in 2014 under Barack Hussein Obama. And then President Trump, God, this is the time when I need a producer, because I would have ribbed my producer and said, hey, get me an audio cut of crickets, because the crickets were playing under the 4 years of Trump. But, of course, I don't have a producer, and that's not what you heard. And I don't even have the sound effect to make that joke, okay? So it's not up right now. And then Putin invaded Ukraine under Biden's watch right now. So what do these people have in common? And why, for example, is Bush in there? Because Bush basically, exploded government, exploded bureaucracy, exploded spending, and never met a Democrat that he didn't hug and kiss on the cheek, or maybe that was merely sort of a subtle effort to determine if Michelle Mabel had pneumatic breasticles or not. Only he knows for certain about that. But the exception being President Trump, who was called Putin's poodle for a while by leftists, the OMB, Orange Man Bad, and the guy with, I call the dead orange cat on his head. He turned, as Lonnie and I discussed last week, a bunch of Russian advisors in Syria into wafting molecules and dust when he launched 59 Tomahawk missiles in 2017 into Syria. And then, of course, because it was Russia, Trump, Trump, Russia, Russia, Trump, 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 Russia, 24/7 on CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS, NBC, ABC, forgot ABC. Then there was, of course, back in 2016, that FBI finds no clear link between Trump and Russia, so said a report. And then it later was emphasized under Mueller in his report, no clear indicators. And I said back in 2017, early 2017, and nobody believed me except Lonnie and perhaps Mike, except I wasn't speaking to Mike at the time because I didn't know him. What this was a soft coup against a presidential nominee, a president-elect, and now we know for sure a sitting president, because then this story came out on February the 12th of 22. Clinton campaign paid to infiltrate Trump Tower, White House servers to link Trump to Putin, Durham finds. And essentially what they're saying is Durham has more. Durham knows more. And for those of you, including myself for a while, said, Durham's not going to do anything. We're not going to get anything out of him. I've kind of had to rescale my thoughts about Durham, because now there's information indicating that this may be going someplace else involving other people. Lonnie Poindexter, anything that you have heard in that regard regarding Durham?
Nothing in addition other than at some point, and I'll use Trump as an example, he could have done anything else other than throw his hat in the ring to run for president. He did so, and and Trump wasn't a Republican. I mean,
no, he donated to both sides.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply.
Yeah, both sides, and folks would say he was more Democrat. Yeah, he was a businessman, and so was business decisions he was making, depending on the candidates that he threw money at. But the thing that rang true for me is that his love for America.
I didn't doubt that ever.
Exactly, and that was key. And I watched his children and his sons and daughters, and particularly his daughters, because they all spoke favorably of him. And I have sisters, and one thing I know about girls is if they ain't happy with daddy, they'll tell everybody. They'll throw him up under the bus and back up 2 or 3 times. So what I'm saying with Durham is at some point, you got to think something gets stirred in somebody, and they say, I love this country enough to push this particular issue, and what we find in spite of the heat I'm going to catch for doing it. Because, most folks, I'd rather be doing something else. I don't want to be in the line of fire. And I think with the Durham incident, what it's doing is, at least I hope and I pray, that it stirred something up where individuals want to rise up and speak the truth.
In a way, I think we're seeing that, as I hope people realize the purpose of my show is push back and to let people understand that there's a lot more going on than the media, what I call the American media maggots, would let you know or want you to hear, or, as we indicated earlier, they bury the lead, or they just don't cover the damn topic at all. And the other thing is, there's a lot of terrible stuff here, and I'm fearing there's a lot of terrible stuff coming, to which we may or may not get to tonight, which makes it a show for another day. In any event, good stuff is occurring despite all the bad stuff. And that's why I have happy stories, and that's why I hope that people are listening and want to listen, because it ain't it awful? Yeah, okay, it's awful.
Yeah,
But there's something coming that I've been sensing and seeing, and your thoughts or visions on that, Lonnie Poindexter?
Yeah, I want to throw the mic to Mike.
Okay.
And get his thoughts. What do you see as it relates to Durham, Michael?
Well, I think the thing with Durham is that it was always going to be a slow investigation, because that's his style. That's always been his style. He's very very, very methodical.
Mm-hmm.
So if he is getting indictments based upon what I've read about him, he's got you. He isn't a showboater. So I think there will be more to come. I think that there will be, the reality is, and this is a part that people have to stop and think about at some point in time, and let reality sink in. And that is, there's no way that spying on the opposing party's, nominee for president doesn't go to the highest office in the United States for approval. There's no way.
That's an exquisite point, because say what you will about Barack Hussein Obama, I didn't give a shit, as everybody knows, what his melanin count was. What I disagreed with were his policies. Now, what he is as an individual or a father, how he treats his kids, that's not even up for discussion as far as I'm concerned. His policies were the things that were execrable. But you cannot tell me, any individual cannot tell me, that Barack Hussein Obama isn't as smart as a whip, because I believe he truly is. Mm-hmm. It becomes an if-then equation. It becomes, if he's as smart as a whip, then can or would anyone believe he didn't know what was going on? I don't believe that for a second.
Well, it was actually discussed in a meeting there in the Oval Office at one point in time, based upon others' testimonies related to that. And Biden was in the room, so was President Obama. I think the thing that is most interesting to me, and you were talking about Trump and Reagan. Honestly, the American progressive movement, if we go back through history, the American progressive movement has been around for a little over 100 years. It started with Woodrow Wilson and Teddy Roosevelt, with their belief that man was not intelligent enough to run their own affairs, and government needed to step in. So it was Teddy Roosevelt, Republican, that started the American progressive movement. And I believe that the last century was defined by this American progressive movement that has given us President Obama, John McCain, Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, the Bushes, go down through history. I believe there have only been really 3 constitutional presidents in the last 100 years, starting with Calvin Coolidge, Ronald Reagan, and surprisingly to me was President Trump.
If I could throw this in as well, because I'm not sure that President Trump was completely familiar with the Constitution. And maybe that sounds like a bad thing to say. But I will say this about Trump. He sensed innately what was right and wrong, what was proper and what was improper.
He was a surprise to me. He wasn't my choice.
No.
My choice was Ted Cruz.
Bingo. Exactly. Ted was my guy. Until I started to listen.
I fully expected President Trump to flip at some point in time when the going got hard. He would do what Schwarzenegger did here in California and switch and become very Democrat. Wow. And, because after all, he'd been a registered Democrat for 40 years. Mm-hmm. His children were registered Democrats when their dad was elected president. So, you've got to, the dynamics of this are really interesting. And if we're looking at Ukraine, I think the other thing that you got to look at in all of this, the biggest part of war is deception. And what we're seeing with Putin is just a blunt force being used. So what's going on in the other hand? Because command and control have not been cut. Power is still in place. There's still money flowing. Things are getting in. He doesn't control the skies yet. So why? Because first thing you do is you go in, you cut power, you cut water and services, you cut communications. None of that's been done.
And
why?
And the Air Force hasn't. His Air Force hasn't been used.
There are massive issues that I want to get into. Mm-hmm. I hope I can get into them tonight with the tactics and the things that we're seeing, and everybody making a big deal about the convoy. I think the convoy is a big deal, but not in the way that a lot of people are thinking about. I want to go back to Trump just for a second, because I'm actually going somewhere with all of this, and we will get to Mike Fitzpatrick with cybersecurity, because there's a ton of articles that I want to go over with him regarding that. Tucker Carlson had a guy named Lee Smith on his show earlier this week, if I'm not mistaken. And if you remember, Trump at the very beginning in 2016 said that he was wiretapped. Now, in terms of specific accuracy, was he wiretapped? Well, you would call it surveillance. There was a time when people would have butt sets, climb on poles, and physically pull out a couple of crocodile leads and tap into phones to hear information. He just didn't have the lexicon correct. But it turns out that he was absolutely correct about this. This is Tucker Carlson with Lee Smith talking about what this actually means.
So we're hesitant to take up the story partly because it seemed on the surface so complicated, but when you dig in a little bit, it's not so complicated.
How to have fun, anytime, anywhere. Step 1, go to ChumbaCasino.com.
ChumbaCasino.com. Got it.
Step 2, collect your welcome bonus.
Come to Papa welcome bonus.
Step 3, play hundreds of casino-style games for free.
That's a lot of games. All for free?
Step 4, unleash your excitement.
Woohoo!
Chumba Casino has been delivering thrills for over a decade. So claim your free welcome bonus now and live the Chumba life. Visit ChumbaCasino.com. VGW Group. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
They were spying on Trump as a candidate and as the president of the United States from the White House. Why is this not the biggest story of the year?
Right. It's an enormous national security scandal. I hear people comparing it to Watergate, and it does not compare to Watergate at all. What we're talking about when we talk about the executive office of the president, this is some.
By the way, anytime that you, Lonnie or Mike, want to stop and comment on anything of that, just tell me to stop.
One of the most secure communications that we have in the United States, and the fact that these were being tapped. the idea that these were under surveillance. We know certainly the DNS systems, and it may be more data as well. We don't know that yet. But the idea that the Oval Office and other important offices in the White House were under surveillance by political operatives is extraordinary. It's shocking, and I'm talking to people who were investigating this on the Hill for several years, and they're shocked.
Well, it's what you would envision Putin doing to his opposition, because if he didn't make him go dead, then he would certainly at minimum be doing this.
Because I think you described it precisely right. It's more than a political story, it's a national security story. And the irony here is Hillary Clinton shrieks about hacking servers and Russia spying on the DNC when people acting on her behalf are literally spying on the President of the United States in the White House. So, like, if she can do it, why can't everyone do it?
Okay, go ahead, Mike.
Okay, a couple of things. As far as the servers and Hillary, and it is interesting. What is interesting to me as a cybersecurity person, and not from a political perspective, is the fact that the FBI, who investigates intrusions into systems all over the nation, was not allowed to do the forensics on the DNC servers.
Or take them as evidence.
The crime scene was not secured. Now, when we do forensics, there's a chain of custody that has to be followed with where the evidence goes, how it was collected, all the steps in an investigation. That was outsourced to, and this is where it gets interesting for me, and again, these are just data points, but it got outsourced to CrowdStrike, which is a highly respected cybersecurity firm, to do the forensics investigation. That's not their core competency. It turns out, reading another book, and I've recommended this book several times as a book on cyber warfare called Sandworm.
Oh, right.
Sandworm is being used in this fight right now, except it's Sandworm 2.0. Sandworm is malware that has been used by the Russians to bring down the power grid, specifically in Ukraine in the past. The CTO for CrowdStrike is brought up in this book. The CTO of CrowdStrike is Ukrainian.
Oh.
And has ties to, wait for it.
Okay.
Burisma.
No, get out.
Yes.
Imagine
so,
that.
One, if you want a really interesting cyber warfare book that is completely understandable, even for those not in the space, not in the business, Sandworm is a great read, and it's all fact.
You mean even a techno-Luddite like me could open the pages of that book and even grok some of their concepts?
It is a compelling story that is all laid out it's all facts laid out through several different cyber attacks through Estonia, through Ukraine, not once, but 3 or 4 different times. The one real clear takeaway out of this book on cyber warfare is that Ukraine is a ping pong ball, and I'm going to be nice about it, is a ping pong ball between Russia and the United States. Both countries are manipulating Ukraine one way or the other.
That's a very interesting point, because a lot of people are saying that, Ukraine is a democracy, Ukraine is a republic. That's what the leftists are telling you. Ukraine is not a democracy or a republic. It's a unitary state where all the power rests with the government. It was a client state, for example, of the USSR until 1991. and its partners, its parties. It has parties in Ukraine. Okay, not the Russian vodka kind, but the parties are socialist and Marxist Leninist. The truth about Ukraine, Mike Fitzpatrick, you just hit on, and it's this. It's been...
It's an interesting dynamic, especially from a cybersecurity standpoint. The dots that are there, the connectivity is there. I mean, I argued it, several posts back in those days. Comey came out and said, well, there was no intent. Well, setting up a server, there's regulation within the federal government called FISMA and FedRAMP, and there's all kinds of cybersecurity regulations. And for the Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, to set up a server outside of the control or certification from a cybersecurity standpoint, outside the control of the federal government and the people that make sure that that data is secure, is intent to circumvent.
It's a violation of the highest order. I worked for the federal system. I know all the USC codes, the United States codes that were quoted by Comey, and he said that she didn't have the intent to X, Y, and Z. Those crimes were not crimes of specific intent. They were crimes of general intent. So Comey lied to our faces, lied directly to our faces in 2016. And I'm not stupid. I know the difference between all of those things, and everything subsequently issued from the open mouth of Comey, I knew from that point on was going to be a lie. The truth.
The whole thing is really interesting when you look at, and again, we also forget that the Obama administration, according to several reporters, spied on several reporters.
Yes.
And I'm trying, as I'm sitting here and talking to you, there's one reporter. Is it Laura Lerner?
Loomer. Laura Loomer.
She actually found somebody. She went to turn on her laptop, pops the screen open, and her mouse is moving, and files are being opened up.
Okay, I believe it. And you can remote any computer if you know how, and clearly that was an individual that knew how to do precisely that. But see, I think the thing that people don't realize about Ukraine is, okay, yeah, it's a recently created country, spawned from the dissolution of the USSR. Okay, I get all that. But the truth is that Ukraine has been the Wild West of the Wild East. And so if you had the right connections, if you had the money and the power and sufficient influence, that corruption in that state knew no bounds. Transactions were conducted there that enriched the Biden crime family, the Clinton crime family, in just two ready examples. And that makes me definitely want to play this, because everyone will remember this. This is Joe Biden bragging. Now, what is Joe Biden bragging about? Let's listen. By the way, Prosecutor General Victor Shokin.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
In a ramp-up to this, in his investigation of corruption involving Burisma Holdings, you mentioned that already, Mike Fitzpatrick, and I know, I get it. This stuff gets a little inside baseball. It's a natural gas company, and they identified Hunter Biden as the recipient of over $3 million from the country. This is a setup for this so that you know what's going on in reference. So essentially not wanting this corruption exposed involving his son, Joe Biden, then vice president, decided that he was going to intervene, and he was going to use and did use loan guarantees as hostage while he demanded that the guy that was going to be prosecuting his son, a guy named Skokin, be fired. So on video is Joe Biden bragging about his actions getting Skokin, who was going to prosecute his son in Ukraine for corruption. Joe Biden threatens Skokin to have him removed in Ukraine. It's on video, and he brags about it. What great fun. So this, by the way, this is on the internet, and anybody who wants to go find it can go find it. Here we go.
I remember going over convincing our team, or others too, convincing us that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another
I'm sorry, this is so low, but it's the best I could do.
$1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I'm not going to, we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired. And they put in place someone who was solid.
Okay, what Joe Biden means by someone who is solid, I speak leftist, so I'll translate. What that means is somebody that wouldn't prosecute his son, Hunter Biden, for corruption. Absolutely for corruption. Well, let's move over here a little bit. Let's talk now, if we can, Mike Fitzpatrick. Well, hell, let's even go back a little bit further. Back in early 21, the Colonial Pipeline was hacked, and it was claimed by a Russian group called DarkSide that spurred an emergency order from the White House. And DarkSide was a ransomware group, and they released a statement saying that they are apolitical and it didn't mean to cause widespread destruction. The Colonial Pipeline hack, Mike Fitzpatrick, do you have any insider information about that?
It is interesting. We actually did a podcast on this. One of my friends is foremost authority in the world, really, on cybersecurity and what are called industrial control systems, or SCADA systems, which are the mechanical systems that run pipelines, that run everything from, the pipelines that we're talking about, to elevators in a building, to roller coasters at Disneyland, and the systems that pump your water and run your power grid are mechanical. They're not digital.
Right.
And so, like a lot of people, as I went through and read the early accounts of the story, I thought it was, this was a pipeline hack. They were able to utilize the PLC password, which is all hard-coded, and, they're all known. But after talking to Joe, and Joe actually thought that same thing as I did, that this was the actual pipeline, but it wasn't. It was the computers within the business office that were exposed to a ransomware attack. What happened is the spreadsheet that was needed, as I understand it from Joe, the spreadsheet that was needed to determine what fuel was in what pipeline was encrypted and they weren't able to get to it. So, and I asked him, I said, I'm going, okay, so why is that? He says, well, okay, so if you've got regular unleaded running down one pipeline as an example, and then you go to push and you make a mistake and you push jet fuel down the same pipeline, you could have a real problem. And the other side of this is they weren't able to bill. So those were the two business unit issues. Wasn't the mechanics of the pipeline. They didn't attack the pipeline. Pipeline function. The business unit and being able to determine what fuel was in what pipe was one issue. The other issue is they weren't able to bill for it because the systems were locked down.
Then Mike Fitzpatrick would have that story been crafted in this way, because the story that I'm reading is from, what the hell is this, NBC. It says the Colonial Pipeline, responsible for the country's largest fuel pipeline, shut down all its operations Friday after hackers broke into some of its networks. Would the stories have been crafted in that fashion so that people didn't know more about how it all went down?
Well, I mean, quite frankly, reporters don't understand cybersecurity to begin with.
Okay. All right. Clouds are parting. Got it. Yep.
I mean, you're giving reporters way more credit than they deserve.
Okay, yeah. Shame on me. Darn it, Jim. Here's another story, Mike Fitzpatrick, and this is sort of a big, broader umbrella type story. Putin has been saying essentially for quite some time since the invasion on the 22nd that we will pay a price for basically doing anything against him. Then from CNBC, there's the headline on this story: Global hacking group Anonymous launches cyber war against Russia. Following Russia's invasion of Ukraine, a Twitter post from an account named Anonymous summoned hackers around the world to target Russia. Subsequent posts claim the group was responsible for pulling down websites of the Russian oil giant Gazprom, whom we have spoken here a couple of times tonight, the state-controlled Russian news agency RT, and numerous other Russian and Belarusian government agencies. Attracting the ire of online hackers is yet another example of how global players, from NATO powers to international business and everyday consumers, are protesting Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Any potential insight, Mike Fitzpatrick, of Anonymous kind of going against Russia now?
Well, it's interesting. You know, Anonymous has really earned their bars through the years, but Anonymous has been kind of quiet for the last several years. So I saw that post when it originally came up, and it's interesting. And they brought down some websites, and they made things challenging for a little bit. What is more interesting to me is that Zelensky is actually trying to assemble hackers from around the world to be that cyber army to go after Russia. They can't get the jets in the air, and they can't get the planes off the ground, but they're going to try to launch and utilize talented people that they have there that are supporting their cause against Russia. Now, the United States, when it comes to the power grid, folks, there's no way to sugarcoat this. It's some of the worst security I've ever seen. And so, I mean, the discussion that I'm hearing and the different things that I'm reading is one of, in order to be defensive, we will have to be off.
How to have fun, anytime, anywhere. Step 1. Go to ChumbaCasino.com.
ChumbaCasino.com. Got it.
Step 2. Collect your welcome bonus.
Come to Papa welcome bonus.
Step 3. Play hundreds of casino-style games for free.
That's a lot of games. All for free?
Step 4. Unleash your excitement.
Woohoo!
Chumba Casino has been delivering thrills for over a decade. So claim your free welcome bonus now and live the Chumba life. Visit ChumbaCasino.com. VGW Group. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Expensive. and it will be going after actors in such a way that has never been done before, with tools that have never been used in that capacity before.
Okay. If we could pause here just for a second. I didn't do my bottom of the hour break, and I just want to remind everybody of this for right now.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And I also have 3 minutes of audio that I'd like to play. And I think it's important that we hear. This is just a section out of a recent broadcast. But I'd like to play this in terms of the information that's contained within from CBS Evening News. I think this is Nora O'Donnell who introduces this. And then the topic that goes on for 3 minutes. And then to come back and re-examine what she addresses, because I find the timing of this very interesting, because when you assemble a news show, it takes you more than just a day or two if you go into a deep, like 60 minutes dive on things. And the timing of this, I'm curious about the timing on it.
Well, tonight, the nation's intelligence agencies are warning of cyber threats from Russia and are urging U.S. critical infrastructure defenses to be reinforced. As CBS's Bill Whitaker reported on Sunday night's 60 Minutes, it wouldn't take much to throw the entire country into darkness.
The grid is a sprawling target. There are actually 3 in the U.S., the Eastern, Western, and Texas has its own. Most of us rarely notice substations. There are 55,000 across the country, each housing transformers, the workhorses of the grid. Inside these massive metal boxes, raw electricity is converted to higher or lower voltages. Should a transformer explode, like this one in Manhattan during Superstorm Sandy, the system is designed to trigger a localized grid-preserving blackout. But if several sections of the grid go down at the same time, the shutdowns can cascade like dominoes. That's what set off the Great Northeast Blackout in 2003, leaving 45 million Americans without power. A few months before the assault on Metcalf, John Wellinghoff of FERC commissioned a study to see if a physical attack on critical transformers could trigger cascading blackouts.
It was actually a very shocking result to us that there's very few number of substations you need to take out in the entire United States to knock out the entire grid.
Knock out the entire grid?
That's correct.
How many would it take to knock out putting the entire country in a blackout?
Less than 20.
And Bill Whitaker joins us now. So, Bill, just 20 substations to knock out the entire system? I mean, that's unbelievable. But your reporting is it could be even less than that.
That's right, Nora. That report was from 2013, and it actually found the number was even lower, 9. Taking out just 9 critical substations could black out the whole country. We were told by multiple sources that the number has not changed much, that less than 20 is a fair assessment.
Well, what can the government do or anybody do about this?
Spend money, and spend it on 2 things. 1, to increase the capacity of these high-powered transmission lines so you decrease their vulnerability to large-scale blackouts. That's already happening through the administration's new infrastructure bill. And 2, invest in better security. But that's not happening right now. Remember, the country's 3,000 power companies are in the business of selling electricity, not national security. And this last point is really important because the threat is real. Just last week, 3 white supremacists pleaded guilty to plotting to attack power grids throughout the country. And they had a plan to hit critical substations simultaneously to cause a massive blackout.
Quite scary. Bill Whitaker, thank you.
Before you go...
So that's true. That's what's going on today. This isn't something that CBS is pulling out of their butts. And they echo, Mike Fitzpatrick, what you just said. But it also...
BC, I was just going to say this, and that is, I love the fact that they winded up with white supremacists, but mentioned nothing about Russia or China,
right,
who have been mapping our power grid for the better part of the last 15 years. The Chinese have actually gone through and have literally mapped every network in this country over the last 15 years, regardless of what business what the business does. So and I guess it was probably, I want to say 2014, 2015, somewhere in that neighborhood, there were actually what appeared to be test runs on power substations, one in California and one in Tennessee, as far as trying to create a disruption. In California, they were using 30-06 rifles.
Yep, I remember
to
that.
shoot into the substation. And then in Tennessee, I want to say, I can't remember exactly what that was. But, I mean, back in early 2000 area, and Lonnie, we were both here in Southern California at the time, there was a tree that fell on a substation up in British Columbia and took out the west coast of the United States for the better part of, what was it, Lonnie, 2 days?
Yep. Certainly did.
So, I mean, and you heard her say there's 3,000 power companies. Would you guys like to guess at how many of these power companies have actually conducted a cybersecurity assessment?
I would say most of them. No?
Okay. Was that Lonnie or BZ?
That was Lonnie.
All right. So BZ, what's your guess?
I'm innately sort of not a positivist, so I'd say the bulk of them haven't.
The correct answer is only 2 of them have.
Oh my God!
Out of how many?
3,000.
Oh man.
Okay, but
that's not Mike. That's not Mike Fitzpatrick assigning a number. That's from Joe Weiss, the foremost authority in the world that actually conducts those types of assessments.
Okay, but this stuff has been in our face directly, and I refer to an article from asia.nikkei.com. This just happened yesterday, and I saw it wasn't given great coverage, but I think this is a huge indicator as to what's in our future. Just in, Taiwan hit by a widespread power outage affecting Taipei, the capital, and Kaohsiung, the second largest city in Taiwan. So in Taiwan, Mike Fitzpatrick. Who do you think the bad actor on that might have been?
Russia. Let's go with Russia. No.
Right. I'll take Russia for 1,000, Biff.
But going back to the time that Russia rolled into the nation of Georgia, their first foray in was a cyber attack on the power grid, bringing the power grid down. I go back to Ukraine. Why is the power grid still up? Why is command and control still in place? There's things about this that don't make sense.
Okay.
And again, what is the deception? What are we not seeing? I know what we are seeing, and I know what they're pointing the lens at. What are we not seeing?
Another reason that I am extremely glad that I had you on tonight, I always like to have Lonnie because Lonnie is a voice of common sense. But neither he nor I can duplicate the requisite education and experience of what it is that you do for a living. And the stories that you have told here and regaled before us numerous times are astounding in terms of people, despite everything that's occurred, still don't get it yet. And 3,000 agencies who likely don't talk to each other much, if at all, although there may be an overarching federal agency that has some kind of control over all of these guys. And no one has said to them something similar to, look, stop with all the petty-ass bullshit and get down to let's make everything safe. Huh, guys? Can we do that? Because when the electric grid goes down, especially in 2022, every damn thing stops. But you bring up a very interesting point, Mike Fitzpatrick. Why hasn't Russia...
Ryan Seacrest here. When you have a busy schedule, it's important to maximize your downtime. One of the best ways to do that is by going to ChumbaCasino.com. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino games like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire that you can play for free for a chance to redeem some serious prizes. So hop on to ChumbaCasino.com now and live the Chumba life. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply.
Or Russian, because I'm sure Putin has at his behest any number of Russian ransomware gangs.
You bet.
At their beck and call, who can threaten countries that want to punish Moscow for the Ukraine invasion. So, like you posit, why haven't we seen that? Why does Ukraine still have power unless somebody has gone up and just dropped a big old bomb down on somebody's transformer?
Again, there's, you have to look. What was it? There was, I want to say it was probably 5 years ago. There was, quote unquote, an attack out of North Korea on the White House or the office of OMB or something like that. So you had this distraction over here on one hand, but where they went in was on the back side of that. So again, deception, Sun Tzu, Art of War, right? Same deal. So what's the distraction? What are we not seeing?
That's my point exactly. And that's, I don't remember. Maybe, Lonnie, you remember who said this. The first casualty in any war is truth. So I have to, maybe that's a Sun Tzu. Mm-hmm. But I have to say, quite frankly, I don't believe what's coming out of Russia. I don't believe what's coming out of Ukraine. And I don't believe what's coming out of D.C. in the United States. I think we're getting little teeny kernels of the truth every now and then when somebody decides to drop one, or they were stupid and it just got out in the first place. So Russia, having not utilized all the ransomware hackers they possibly could muster, Mike Fitzpatrick, couldn't Russia, if they wanted, have turned all of Ukraine upside down electrically by now?
Sure, just simply with their military, without even going to the external talent that is available. I mean, there's some incredibly intelligent people there. But again, there are some of these folks, and I'm sitting here watching a video, even on my screen, of a protest in St. Petersburg tonight. The town square is full. People coming out against this thing. So there's going to be, eventually, there will be some of these actors within Russia that, as I said before, all of these hackers have a line. They have a line of some kind that if somebody crosses it, they find offense to it. And that's what guides them. And so it's going to be interesting to see how, the longer this goes on, how this plays out.
Okay. So essentially what you're saying, Mike Fitzpatrick, is that this, in terms of individuals or groups who are acting together, is essentially a case-by-case basis.
I haven't seen what I thought I would see yet.
Okay, first, okay, great. Oh, God, I got so many questions. Lonnie's getting tired. I'm going to play a promo.
Hush, Mike.
I'm going to play a promo. Let me ask you this. First, Mike, can you hang over the break?
Sure.
Okay. Lonnie,
can you stay awake?
Can you hang over the break? Okay, that's a yes from Lonnie. Okay, let me play this. We'll be right back. And when I come back, I want to ask Mike Fitzpatrick what the potentiality is and what the reality might be of hacking, because I think the first thing up for bid is going to be the power grid. And I couldn't think of anybody better here tonight than Lonnie and Mike to talk about exactly these things. I'll be right back after this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Southern Sense is conservative talk with Annie, the radio chick Ubelis as host and C.S. Bennett co-host. Informative, fun, irreverent, and politically incorrect. You never know where they'll go, but you'll love the journey. Annie is a top conservative host on Top Talk Radio and features some of the finest guests packed with important politicians and newsmakers. Listen every Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, noon to 3 Pacific, on the SHR Media Network. Remember, Southern Sense is common sense.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and among these, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Hi, this is Eric Thompson. Please check out my new Week in Review show, For Liberty's Sake, Saturday mornings, 10 a.m. Pacific Time. Check out forlibertysake.com.
Hey, are you guys listening? This is Shannon from Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM on SHR Media. I know you've been wondering where we are and what's been going on. Well, folks, that's right. We're back. So please join us 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday on SHR Media, on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Spotify, and Facebook Live at 11 a.m. on Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM at Facebook. You don't want to miss a minute. We've got lots of guests, lots of segments, and lots of interesting things. And let's face it, there's nowhere for you to go, so you might as well tune in. Again, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. We're back live on the air on SHR Media, 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday, audio and Facebook Live, audio and video. Yes, we are going to do video. Facebook Live, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. Hope to see you soon.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we're back. I'm back. Lonnie's back. Mike is back. You can listen to the show live and jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room by going to shrmedia.com. shrmedia.com. We're being we're being plied with alcohol and other things tonight, but we are being played on Spreaker tonight, and at the conclusion of the show, I'll put out the show in social media. So, Mike Fitzpatrick, I have to say that Spreaker or Frontier has not yet screwed with me once, although now that I've mentioned it, something will probably happen. But so far, at this point, it looks like it will be a one-piece contiguous show, uninterrupted by down internet lines from Frontier. Holy Mother of God, thank you very much, Lord. I appreciate your consideration.
That's probably because Frontier is scared of Michael. You know,
or that could be.
Yeah, he's one of those security geeks.
Well, it could just be that Mike pays a hefty internet bill here at the house for the 2 gigs that's coming in.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you should mention that. I can go into prices later, but in terms of pricing for this area through Frontier, we have the highest tier of paid freight for what we're not getting. In other words, we're promised X, but we're given tin cans, stone knives, bear skins, piano wire, and chewing gum, courtesy of Frontier Communications,
and smoke signals.
Yeah. Oh, it's smoke signals. Good. And this is the efficacy of Frontier smoke signals. You can't see them at night, Frontier. Can you? And the answer is no, you can't.
It's all infrared, so that they're able to track it that way. But it's an interesting old story. The town that I live in was in a Podunk area, in between 2 central offices here in California,
right?
And 10 miles on either side of no man's land. So where the sphere of influence for each of these central offices ended was 10 miles either side of our town. And so city councilmen, and we were trying to get to where we could bring in broadband into our town. What was that?
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
2004, 2005. He asked me, he said, well, how could we make that a utility in town? So I actually designed a fully meshed Wi-Fi network utilizing the hills around town to beam the signals to where you can walk around to anywhere in the valley and be connected. Well, Verizon got word of this and made our little town, middle of podunk nowhere, the first town in the country to have fiber to every door, because they didn't want cities to figure out that they could become their own utility for internet.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so everyone who's listening within the sound of our voices, if you want, you can install your own fiber net then and bypass the biggies? Is that what you're saying, Mike Fitzpatrick? Huh?
No, I'm saying that the city had an opportunity to change their charter, become their own utility like they do for water and other things.
Right.
But do it for the internet.
But you can't do it anymore, or can you do it anymore?
I think you probably could. And again, what we were going to use was line of sight Wi-Fi, and it wasn't going to be fiber to the door. But once Verizon got word of this, now Verizon became Frontier. Verizon got word of this, they didn't want it going anywhere else, and they kicked out Huntington Beach being first and made us first. Because they did not want the cities realizing that they could create a profit center off of the internet.
In the city that Michael's speaking of, and at the time, I chuckle to call it a city. They still had hitching posts for the horses, if I remember correctly.
Pretty close.
Yeah, pretty close. But it would have been a differentiator for the community, and really put it on the map. If the city was able to, but they moved so cotton. I remember you were working on that, Mike, but they moved so cotton picking slow, and you said that the big entities got involved and made it a moot point. But man, that would have been so cool if that had happened. Yeah.
But it became a negotiation point.
Okay. What do you mean?
Well, okay. So my friend was elected city council, right?
Right.
He took the idea and then went after Verizon with it.
Oh.
And then Verizon said, "Oh no, we don't want you doing that."
Uh-huh.
So what do we have to do to make this idea go away?
Gotcha.
Oh, okay. A little cash under the table, so to speak?
Mm-hmm.
No, it was bringing the service into the city.
Mm-hmm.
No cash, no. It was. They did not want the idea going anywhere else to any other city, to where it would take revenue away from them.
Okay, you guys can have it, but the rest of you guys need to remain ignorant.
Well, it kind of works that way sometimes.
I did not know that Verizon became Frontier, or that Frontier purchased Verizon. I had no idea. I thought Verizon was this little unit by itself, and apparently not.
No, Verizon's. I love this part because I've got friends that worked at Verizon, and they became Frontier. So Verizon sells the service, the FiOS service, and all of it. What was Verizon out here on the West Coast and in Texas and other places? They sell that to Frontier. Well, what they didn't sell to them was the provisioning software that was needed to make everything work, or set up lines, or install new service, or all of those things. And whoever did the due diligence on Frontier's part just really messed that up in a major way.
Screwed the pooch.
Yeah, a little bit. But yeah, so I mean, the technology stories are interesting stories because sometimes they get glamorized and sometimes they're just plain ugly at the end of the day with the result. But anyway, what we're talking about as far as the grid is concerned, because, honestly, to fix it, I think everybody would chip in $1 or $2 on their electric bill to go specifically for the grid to shield it, to make it more secure.
If you knew and had the confidence that your $1 or $2 or $3 would go directly to a fund for that and not be siphoned off by anyone or everyone else for another line of extraneous, useless bullshit. And I don't have that confidence. Do you have that confidence, Lonnie Poindexter?
Are you kidding? I spent nearly 10 years in D.C. I saw up close and personal, and it does jade you if you let it. No, I don't think I'd see it. Go ahead, Mike.
I was just going to say, the thing I would tell you guys is, you think back, go into the Wayback Machine, and think about Trump talking about critical infrastructure.
Right.
And how we need to protect our power grid.
Yep.
He didn't appropriate any dollars for the power grid.
Mm-hmm.
He missed that one.
Let me go back a little bit here, because I teased before the break that we talked to Mike Fitzpatrick. I had 2 specific questions for him, and that will be on the heels of this article from Fox Business saying Russia launching cyber war against the U.S. is the biggest risk for Americans, Harvard economist says. So would you say, Mike Fitzpatrick and Lonnie Poindexter, that the U.S.'s biggest risk engaging in Russia, engaging with Russia, involving Ukraine, is that our biggest risk, a cyber attack?
Yeah, I would say, because Russia's not what it once was. During the collapse, they've rebuilt infrastructure and so forth. They're not going to just roll over and play dead if we apply pressure. But I do think there's things we can do. Well, first of all, stop buying their oil. That's a good start. And I think that would have a tremendous impact. And then reestablish the pipeline from Canada would be the other thing that they could do. I don't know. Should we fear Russia? I'm not certain. I would throw that back to you two to get your perspective on it.
Well, that's it, Mike Fitzpatrick. Those were the 2 critical questions for you. Number 1 was, what's the viability, translated to perhaps the percentile chance of Russia engaging a cyber attack directly against the United States?
Yeah.
Because it would seem the greatest opportunity for something like that. I mean, you could go into the DOD or something, maybe the Pentagon, but it would seem the something that would yield the greatest results, the greatest chilling effect, would be an attempt on the grid.
Yeah, I don't see it being rockets and nuclear stuff.
No, I don't see any kind of DOD.
Rattling.
So,
yeah.
Mike Fitzpatrick, is that the greatest threat, do you think?
I think cybersecurity is absolutely, for us, the greatest risk at this point. There's the supply chain, which is already damaged due to the pandemic. The problem is, and you see this in the Lord of the Rings movie, where the great machines were shut down and they weren't able to restart them again. So we're kind of dealing with that. We have, the supply chain was fast and it was efficient, and you could get anything from anywhere in the world relatively quickly. Now the supply chain is running like, you remember your old bike when the chain would come off the sprocket and it would spin and catch and maybe let go and spin and catch? we're kind of through that phase. If we're dealing with a normal, healthy supply chain and we lose power and the power grid goes down, that supply chain and what's in it is going to last for a total of about 72 hours.
Wow.
Yes,
because everything's just-in-time inventory.
Yep.
Yeah, because we have no backups, we have no warehouses, because people in corporations have determined that having any kind of a backlog or any kind of a warehouse or any kind of a stockpile is more expensive than it's worth under times of beautiful...
Looking for excitement? Chumba Casino is here. Play anytime, play anywhere. Play on the train, play at the store, play at home, play when you're bored. Play today for your chance to win and get daily bonuses when you log in. So what are you waiting for? Don't delay. Chumba Casino is free to play.
Experience social gameplay like never before. Go to Chumba Casino right now to play hundreds of games, including online slots, bingo, Slingo, and more. Live the Chumba life at ChumbaCasino.com. VGW Group. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Pie in the sky, unicorn times where everything is perfect and everything is wonderful. So they haven't made provisions for issues like that.
Mm-hmm.
Then let me tell you this, or ask you this, Mike Fitzpatrick. One of the biggest things that I took away when I went to go see Hoover Dam and Lake Mead, when you take the tour, one of the things that the tour guide told me is that see these huge dam transformers right here that are in the powerhouse. These are made in Germany. Each one of these weighs multiple tons and is constructed in Germany, placed on a boat, and shipped over here. Turnaround time for each one of these is about 3 years. So then I was hearing that an EMP, or in this case, perhaps a cyber attack, if it damages somehow these massive transformers at dams on the Colorado, on the Columbia, wherever they are, we don't make those.
Mm-hmm.
The last I checked, they're made in Germany because they are critically built, critically measured. They have to be perfect. Everything has to be equal and the same, and they are multiple millions of dollars. We can't afford to lose those.
We don't make anything anymore when you think about it. You talk about supply chain, you know, and Michael, when you made that reference that we'd be with the just-in-time inventory practices that were developed several years ago, we don't make anything, and we already know that stuff coming from China. And here's a question. Is there anything, I don't think I've ever seen anything that I purchased at a store that said made in Russia. Is there anything they're exporting to the United States other than oil?
Vodka, caviar.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I'm sure there's several things, but it's not necessarily. It's probably not us. I mean, one of the things that I looked at, because I get curious about things when I start reading and start diving into some of this. One, I was surprised that the population of Russia is only 146 million people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's less than half of the United States.
Yeah. Oh,
and their GDP is somewhere around $3 trillion, which is less than that of California.
Mm. Yes.
So Russia has a couple of real cash crops, and that is oil and natural gas.
Mm-hmm.
And if the price of oil is low, Russia struggles. If it's high, then they do well. The thing that we also have to think about in this, and again, we're just talking about systems, right? Not systems they can be used for political things, but they're not political by design. So the banking system here in the United States and in the West is the banks all exchange money over the SWIFT system.
Yes.
That's how all the banks transfer money. So one of the sanctions is one of the sanctions, I guess, being considered is cutting Russia and the Russian central bank out of SWIFT. There's just one problem with that, and that is you have the BRIC nations. You guys familiar with the BRIC nations?
I am. Brazil, I don't remember what that is. India, Russia, India, and China.
Yes. They have set up their own version of SWIFT. And they've backed it all with gold because all of those nations have been buying gold by the tons each year for the last 10 or 12 years.
Because they want to be the monetary standard.
They don't want the dollar to be the monetary standard.
Yes, exactly.
They don't. So they have built their own SWIFT replacement called CIPS. So China is going to funnel that money through that. So whatever Russia does, logically, that money and those transactions should go through CIPS. There has to be integration between CIPS and SWIFT at some point. Now, maybe it runs through Brazil. Russia's money runs through Brazil off CIPS and then gets processed on SWIFT. They're not completely cut out. And that's so, this gets to be rather interesting because the mutually assured destruction now is not via missile. It changed from an economist standpoint back in the late 60s to be one of economic destruction. So it's mutually self-assured economic destruction. Is what we're playing with.
It's all very Byzantine, purposely, I submit.
Yep.
And it's all very Machiavellian, purposely, I submit. Not easy to understand, but the major players got to be that way because they want to upset the United States apple cart. And I don't know of any other way of putting it than that.
No, and again, you've got a lot of these Davos billionaires, quite frankly, believe that the state-run economy of China is the right economic model. And so, they're all in. I mean, Lonnie and I have a mutual friend that has been living in China with his wife, who is she's a big pharma exec, as I recall. And it's interesting. It's 45% across the board in tax. Now, sure, you can't really come out against the government. You couldn't have a conversation like what you're having here, and you're monitored with every inch of your life. And if they don't like it, they shut off your phone and your money doesn't work anymore and you can't participate in society.
Oh, you mean like Canada?
Well, I mean, it is interesting because the Chinese military did cold weather training in Canada.
Yes, they did. Well, actually Trudeau first accepted that, and then it didn't occur. But it didn't occur for a number of reasons. But Trudeau was one of the people when, upon solicitation, said, sure, come one, come all. Come on over, China.
Exactly.
No problem. Well, because we got great snow for you guys. But already... blowing up the skirts of China. I could have said something else, but I decided that I was going to keep it. Even though this is a late-night show, what the hell? I wrote this down.
But BZ, I mean, the thing is, a lot of this is all perpetrated on or we're dealing with however they focus the lens of the camera, right?
Yes.
Whatever narrative wants to be written. So what I'm trying to, I'm talking to my friends and looking at the field at play is step back a little bit, expand your view of it.
Yes.
And try to see what you're not seeing or what you're not being shown.
And that's why I say you have to expand your focus, expand your engagement, step back, and take more of a larger umbrella view of everything that's going on, because I don't believe in coinkydink anymore. I really don't.
No. No,
there's
there is no such thing.
There is a quote that I wrote down. Now, Lonnie Poindexter, you say that you write shit down when you're talking on the show.
Mm-hmm.
I did that last week.
You did. I know you bring a lot of data.
And
folks, his desk is just loaded with paperwork for stuff that he's researched. So you do write stuff down too?
I do. And here's one of the things that I wrote down. It's a quote last week from Lonnie Poindexter, who said, evil strong men respect a strong man.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing today is a result of that. Now, I have 4 minutes that I said I was going to play of something that clearly indicates why a certain set of circumstances did not occur from roughly 2016 to 2020. To me, this is glorious because these assholes have never been talked to like this before, ever.
It's very sad when Germany makes a massive oil and gas deal with Russia, where you're supposed to be guarding against Russia, and Germany goes out and pays billions and billions of dollars a year to Russia.
Okay, stop right there. I have to insert this. Russia supplies 40% of gas to all of Europe. Almost all of Europe's gas, almost half, comes from Russia, which is why they wanted Nord Stream 2.
So we're protecting Germany, we're protecting France, we're protecting all of these countries, and then numerous of the countries go out and make a pipeline deal with Russia where they're paying billions of dollars into the coffers of Russia. So we're supposed to protect you against Russia, but they're paying billions of dollars to Russia, and I think that's very inappropriate. And the former chancellor of Germany is the head of the pipeline company that's supplying the gas. Ultimately, Germany will have almost 70% of their country controlled by Russia with natural gas. So you tell me, is that appropriate? I mean, I've been complaining about this from the time I got in. It should have never been allowed to have happened.
Okay, so to this point, initially, Germany said that they were not interested in a swift censure because Russia, via Putin, holds the sword of Damocles over all of fucking Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Not just Germany, but all of Europe. So in the meantime, Germany took it upon itself that it was going to go green, and it has deactivated any number of nuclear reactors, and I think they only have 3 left. Well, all of Europe, the bulk of Europe, especially France, embraced nuclear power for years and years and years. And now led by Germany, Germany has said this is a wonderful time to go green, except it really fucking isn't a great time to go green. So the new chancellor now, just yesterday, came back and said, we'll not be deactivating any more nuclear reactors. And by the way, we're going to be ramping up some nuclear reactors that we may have decommissioned. And by the way, we're going to go back to coal. We're going to make it as clean as we can, but we're going back to coal. And nobody has heard this from the American media maggots. Nobody knows this. But Germany, not under Merkel, I can't think of the new guy's name, begins with an O. But this new chancellor has essentially given the middle finger to Angela Merkel and said, hey, sit on it and twirl. I'm not going to be stupid, especially in times like these. Mm-hmm. Now, as my law guy said at Sac State, contrast and compare. Now, here's a story that I'm holding in my hot little hand that Lonnie is watching right now, where the Biden administration, this came out just the day that this invasion occurred into Ukraine from Russia. Biden administration freezes new oil and gas drilling leases after court rules against key climate tool. Well, wait a minute. What does that be? Everything's in the details with regard to these guys. The Biden administration has once again put a pause on new leases and permits for federal oil and gas drilling. But here's why. Because they were cut off at the knees by a judge. After a federal judge blocked Biden, from using a metric that estimates the societal cost of carbon emissions. So because you, federal judge, said that I couldn't have my way, I'm taking all our gas leases and screwing the American citizens, and I'm taking them home. And this is what you're dealing with these days.
But Germany is totally controlled by Russia because they were getting from 60 to 70% of their energy from Russia and a new pipeline. And you tell me if that's appropriate, because I think it's not. And I think it's a very bad thing for NATO, and I don't think it should have happened. And I think we have to talk to Germany about it. On top of that, Germany is just paying a little bit over 1%, whereas the United States, in actual numbers, is paying 4.2%.
Okay, stop right there. Everybody knows what he's talking about, do you not? NATO's initial agreements indicated that client countries, of which there are, I think, 30 now, they must pay 2% of their GDP, not a given specific number, but a certain percentile of their GDP they were expected to be paying all along for NATO. Historically speaking, the United States has been footing the bill not just for the UN, but also for NATO completely. And all the other countries, because all the other NATO client countries, because they were not held, their feet were not held to the fire, got away with not spending money and got used to American largesse, meaning that you, Lonnie, me, BZ, you, Mike, we, the American taxpayer, have been footing the bill for Germany and all the other NATO states to do what they're doing and not spend money on their own defense. To me, that is all of Europe giving us the high fucking middle finger of fate. And can you see Obama cornering anybody in that room or NATO about this issue?
No, he'll draw his red line in the sand.
Would Bush have even dared do this?
Not the way I get me started with him. I don't think so.
But you know, I mean, the thing is that, quite frankly, this whole thing in Ukraine is a massive wake-up call to Europe.
It should be.
They've become complacent. It's like everybody. Everybody gets soft. Everybody gets complacent with what their threat level is. When everything feels good and everything feels happy and everything's running smooth, no one gives bad things a second thought.
Right.
Americans,
it's human nature.
Human nature and American nature. Everybody thinks that what happened in World War II in the United States can't happen again. Oh, yes, it can, because history is not taught.
That's right.
George Santayana was absolutely right. And here's a wonderful example. I'm not going to go through the rest of the thing from Trump because now it's 10:30 and we're going to have to wrap this up. Here's Pete Buttigieg saying essentially, now he's the Transpo secretary, got a cabinet position. Here's Pete Buttigieg saying that, you know what? If we have to, I think Iranian oil could be on the table.
Could the president possibly consider authorizing the Keystone Pipeline, working something out with Iran?
I mean, look, the president has said that all options are on the table, but we also need to make sure that we're not galloping after permanent solutions to immediate short-term problems where more strategic...
Okay, did you just hear what he said this situation is? This is a short-term problem. Our long-term problem needs to be green energy, technologically, of which we're not there yet. But if we can't have this, we'll cut the leases. If we can't have that, we'll give money to Iran. From what dimension are these people operating, Lonnie Poindexter?
All right. Parallel universe.
This isn't my universe.
It's the World Economic Forum universe.
There you go, Michael. They have a whole nother agenda.
And Mr. Pete is a graduate of the Young Global Leaders.
He is he not, Mike? And you made me aware of that. What is that, Mike Fitzpatrick? Can you elucidate upon that a little bit?
From what I've been able to tell, the World Economic Forum goes out and handpicks key leaders from around the world, not only to be prime ministers and chancellors like Angela Merkel and other leaders, Macron in France and others around the world, but those that are up and coming. So they always have a fresh crop. Ivanka Trump is also a graduate of the young global leaders of the World Economic Forum.
So these are the, let's say, would I be inaccurate, Mike Fitzpatrick, in saying that these are the future, I don't know, George Soros?
Well, okay, Pierre or Trudeau in Canada is a graduate of the young global leaders.
Yes. Yes, he is.
Ryan Seacrest here. When you have a busy schedule, it's important to maximize your downtime. One of the best ways to do that is by going to ChumbaCasino.com. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino games like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire that you can play for free for a chance to redeem some serious prizes. So hop on to ChumbaCasino.com now and live the Chumba life. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply.